We humans are always trying to trace our roots. We want to know who our great-grandparents were, where we really came from. But if we truly want to go back to our origins, we don't need to rewind 100 or 200 years. We need to travel 4.5 billion years into the past. Welcome to RB Talks. Today we're not talking about family history. We're talking about the home that gave life to all of us, planet Earth. Imagine a time when there was no time, no directions, nothing but darkness and silence. How did a cloud of cosmic dust turn into the blue world we live on? How did a burning ball of fire cool down enough to hold oceans? And how did lifeless rocks give rise to the very first heartbeat? In today's episode, let's start the countdown and uncover the real story of Earth's birth. The story begins with an explosion. Before our solar system existed, there was only a giant solar nebula, a massive cloud of dust and hydrogen gas. Then somewhere nearby, a star went supernova. The shock wave from that blast set the nebula spinning. Gravity pulled everything inward. Almost 99% of all that material collapsed toward the center, and from it, our sun was born. But the remaining 1%, it started circling around the newborn sun. Rocks collided violently, smashing, melting, and fusing together. These collisions were so intense that every forming planet was nothing more than a molten sphere. Around 4.54 billion years ago, Earth was born. But this wasn't the Earth you know. This was hell. The entire surface was covered in oceans of molten lava. Temperatures soared above 2,000 degrees. There was no air, only poisonous gases like carbon dioxide and nitrogen. If you stood there for even 1 second, you'd evaporate instantly. Earth had barely begun to stabilize when disaster struck again, this time from space. Back then, several small planets were still forming in our young solar system. One of them was Theia, a planet about the size of Mars. And Theia was heading straight toward Earth, at a speed of 15 kilometers per second. When Theia hit, the collision was so violent that Earth's entire outer layer was blasted into space. For a moment, it looked like our planet might not survive at all. But once again, gravity stepped in. The scattered debris began to orbit Earth, forming a glowing ring, much like the rings of Saturn. And from this swirling ring of molten rock, something incredible happened. The debris came together and formed our closest companion, the object we now call the Moon. At that time, the Moon was extremely close to Earth. So close that if you were standing on the surface back then, it would have appeared 15 times larger in the sky than it does today. After the Moon formed, Earth slowly began to cool. The oceans of lava hardened into dark rock. But something was still missing: life and water. Around 3.9 billion years ago, an event occurred that scientists call the Late Heavy Bombardment. Millions of meteorites rained down on Earth from space. But this wasn't just destruction, it was a gift. Inside many of these meteorites were tiny crystals of frozen ice. When they slammed into the scorching hot Earth, the ice melted instantly and turned into steam. That steam rose, formed clouds, and then began the longest rainfall in Earth's history. Not for a day, not for a year, but for millions of years. Craters filled with water, and eventually, nearly 70% of Earth became covered by oceans. The toxic red planet had finally transformed into a blue world. Earth now had water, but still no life. Deep in the oceans, in places where sunlight could never reach, hydrothermal vents were erupting. These were underwater volcanoes, blasting hot, mineral-rich chemicals into the dark sea. And in this boiling chemical soup, a miracle happened. For the first time, non-living molecules came together to form a cell, a tiny single-celled organism. This was the first citizen of Earth. Thousands of years passed, and these simple organisms learned to use sunlight. They developed the ability to perform photosynthesis, and in return, they released a gas that would change the fate of this planet forever. Oxygen. Oxygen cleared the skies, built the ozone layer, and transformed Earth into a world where life could finally thrive. So friends, from that giant cloud of cosmic dust to rivers of lava, the moon's massive impact, and the very first rainfall, everything had to happen exactly right for you and me to breathe here today. Our roots aren't just limited to our ancestors. Our real roots lie in the stardust that created this entire Earth. But the journey doesn't end here. Life began in the oceans, yes. But how did it crawl onto land? How did dinosaurs rise? And how did they suddenly disappear? We'll uncover all of this in the next episode of RB Talks. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and make it blue, and don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next one.